Good morning. Welcome to the training webinar. I'm Dale Franks, and today we are going to talk about stream actions and how to create stream actions. I don't know if you can hear the clicking, clacking of large paws on my floor behind me. I'm not sure how good the noise reduction works, but I thought I had mollified my huge mastiff by giving him a handful of pork rinds before the podcast began, but apparently not, because he wants to come in and say hi, perhaps to say thank you for the pork rinds, Dad. Anyway, I will try to ignore the dog, and we will try to move on through our topic. I do have an administrivia thing to talk about. If you have any suggestions for items to cover in the training webinar, I've got about, at this point, close to 50 topics that we sort of cycle through. It takes about a year to get through all of the topics that I talk about, but I know this is one I've talked about before. And rather than just cycle through the same 50 topics, it's kind of hard for me to think of new things because I don't actually use the product. I mean, I clearly use it to make training stuff and to do documentation and whatnot, but in terms of actual implementations and the problems that might arise or things that you might want to know about creating applications, I don't have a lot of experience with that because I really don't create applications in a production environment. I'm not an implementer, even though I know a lot about implementation from the technical side. Not so much from the practical side, from the end user side, where you encounter real world problems and real world issues that I don't. So if you have something you would like me to talk about, please be sure to drop me a line at dale.franks@bplogix.com. And I will, of course, take a look at your suggestions, and anywhere that I can, I will slot them into the schedule of training webinars so that we can cover those sort of things. Now, some of you have done this before, and I have a couple of training webinars that I've created off of your implementation experiences and questions. So if you have some suggestions, please don't hesitate to let me know. And with that, let's go in and begin talking about our topic for today, which is stream actions. The new version of Zoom makes it a little more difficult to share my background. They've changed how sharing or share my screen. They've changed how sharing works. It's a little more complicated, and I'm not sure I like it. So what are stream actions? Well, stream actions enable us to take some external data, bring it into Process Director, and automatically start processes with it. Now, there are a couple of different objects that we can use to start process in Process Director, but they generally rely on internal Process Director data. For example, I can create a knowledge view that starts a process for each row in the knowledge view. That's not what I wanted to click on and open. I wanted to go into a knowledge view here, and on the Configure tab of a knowledge view, one of the options that you can have for the type of knowledge view that you want is up here in knowledge view results. As you can see, I started off picking the wrong thing, but this is the right thing, where it tells you how you want your knowledge view displayed. And sometimes you don't want to display a knowledge view. Sometimes you want to run a process based on the data in each row in a knowledge view. And you can do that. You can do that fairly easily inside Process Director simply by clicking the knowledge view results dropdown and just choosing to start a process for each row. When the knowledge view runs, it kicks off the process. Any data that happens to be in that knowledge view row can be transferred over into a form, and you can copy that form data or that knowledge view data into the form for that row. And of course, it kicks off the process. And for however many rows in the array that you have, you'll have that many or that number of processes. And you can do that on an automated basis because you can take a knowledge view and you can run a goal. And I should probably pull a goal up real quick. So let's just go into webinar, not webinar, we want archive, sorry. And we'll look under goals. And so with a goal, we'll just open up one here. Oh, that's goal process. All right, where did I put all of the goals? Maybe it's in samples. There's a goal right there. And when we look at a goal and the execution options tab, when you go into your conditions and results, one of the actions you can perform is to run a knowledge view. So on a scheduled basis, if I have data that exists inside Process Director, let's say form data. So I have several form instances that have some form data. And based on those form instances, I want to start a new process. All right, that's not really a problem here then. I can create a goal. The goal will evaluate on a scheduled basis. When a condition is met, I can run a knowledge view. That knowledge view can then, of course, itself kick off running a process for each row in the knowledge view. So if I have data inside Process Director in conjunction with a goal, I can use a knowledge view to create new processes based on that data. What I can't do easily with a knowledge view, of course, is access data from outside of Process Director, external data, where I might want to take some external data, bring it in, and run a process based on that external data. The stream action enables me to actually do that. Now, before we had the stream action, you could still do it. It was a lot more unwieldy, but it actually worked. You could actually pull out that data from a business value. You could take that data, insert it into a form that contained an array. And then from that form, you could kick off the run process custom task. And that run process custom task has the ability to bind to an array and then to run a process for each row in that array. So you could do it, but there were a lot of hoops that you would have to jump through to make that happen. So you would need to create a goal, and that goal would be scheduled. And whenever it was called on its scheduled basis, it would run a process. That process would open the array form. The array form would pull the data in from an external database, bind it to the array. And then the next step in the array would be to, or the next step in the process would be to run the run process custom task and run a process for each row in that array. Doable, but messy and tedious to build. So the whole point of building the stream actions custom task was just, or the stream actions object rather, was just to simplify that. So we have some external data. We're going to run through it and then we're going to rebuild it as we generally do here. So I have some data and it's basically an invoice spreadsheet. It just has about 5 records. Indeed, I've made a form. I've made an array form where we can actually look and see what the data is in my external database. I brought it in from Excel. I imported into the Process Director internal user database so that I have a SQL data source based on that. So I can treat it as an external set of data. So I basically have 5 records. Now these records are unprocessed invoices. So let's say that we have these invoices that need to be paid, that need to be processed. They come along, on some frequent basis. Arbitrarily, let's just say that every day I need to check my external database, my CRM or ERP database, and I need to look to see if any new invoices have come in and check to see of those new invoices, which of them are currently being processed, or which of them, in this case, are not being processed, so that I can begin the process of grabbing that data. So here are the 5 records that I have. These are my 5 invoices, and they're from 5 different companies. There are no payment types, there are no payment dates, and more importantly, the in process flag is all set to 0. So I know that these are my 5 in process invoices, or my 5 invoices that I need to process. And so I need to start the invoice processing process for each one of these invoices. So I've created a stream action to do that. So in this stream action, we're not going to go over the configuration now because we're going to go ahead and rebuild it anyway. But on my stream action, if I run my stream action for this data, I should also point out at the moment, all of my invoices that were previously set have been processed, right? So I have no form instances. I have no process timeline instances. So let's look at active timelines, none. Completed timelines, none, because I've deleted all of them. So I have a completely blank system here. So this is my inaugural run of my stream action for my invoices. So if we go back to our stream action, now I don't have it set for automatic stream action processing for obvious reasons. In the real world, you would have this done on a schedule, like a daily schedule, but I do have a process now button, which I'm going to click. And when I click that button, I will get the little loading spinny, and it will tell me that I have successfully executed the action, which is a run process action on 5 objects. So if we look at our form instances, well, look, there we go. Those are my form instances. And of course, I should have 5 active timelines. I do. If I were to run the stream action again at this point, ideally, this is what would happen. It would run the process. It would return 0 objects. Return 0 objects because the 5 that were originally in the database are now in process. Although I've got to do some database gyration to make this work, it actually does work, and we'll do that database gyration here in just a little bit. And if I go back to my view stream data form, so we can actually see all of my records there, you can see that all of them are now marked as in process. So when I run the stream, it returns nothing. But I have my 5 in process now. If I swap my workspace over to the user profile, I should have 5 things running. I certainly do. And so now I can go in to each one of these objects, and I can select payment type. So we'll say EFT. And by the way, it automatically sets the payment date for me. And so in my form, I can just go ahead and process each one of these invoices. And unfortunately, I need to do this for all of them to clear them out. So 2 more left. We'll let these people pay in crypto. And one more check. Processed. So we're good there. I have no more tasks running. I have no more running processes on my system. I have finished them all. I can go back and view my stream data now. And again, this is just pulling the data out of the database, and I can see what my payment types for each one of these were and when those invoices were paid. So I now have a report of my current invoices. I only have 5, so this is my big invoice report here with all 5 of them. So, okay, how does all of this work? And how would we build something like this? Well, let's go ahead and rebuild it. It's 10:15. I'm going to try something a little more ambitious here. I'm going to try to take my invoice data. Now, as I said, it's all in this XLS file here. I'm actually going to start by creating these business values from scratch, and once we get those, then we'll create the stream action from scratch, and we'll run it. So let's go into my webinar folder. And again, we're going to start from scratch. Well, almost from scratch. I am at the internal user database, and I don't know whether this is using everything or if it's only using that one table. It is only using that one table. So payment types and unpaid invoices. Those are the two things that I need. So we'll go into our webinar folder. I need to access this external data. So I'm just going to create a folder. I'm going to call it my data folder. And I'm going to put all of my data objects in here, except for the Excel spreadsheet. I'm going to leave that. I'm going to leave that where it is, but just so that you know, that's the source of this data. So obviously I'm going to need a data source first. So we're just going to call this the stream actions. Well, again, me typing stream actions webinar data source. It is an internal user database data source, and I do want to select only those two tables, training payment types and training unpaid invoices. So now I have a way to touch my data. So I'm going to need a couple of things on my form that I know ahead of time. In this case, I need to know the different types of payments that I can apply, or the different payment types that users can use to pay those invoices. Now, it's in a database, so I'm going to stick it into a dropdown, and I'm going to have to bind that dropdown to a business value. So I know I am going to need a business value for my various payment types. So I need to build that little building block first just to get that out of the way. So we're going to go ahead and build a business value. And we will just call this I'm going to call this payment types W so that I know we'll just put the word webinar there. I guess it doesn't matter. I don't have to make it that hard. Doesn't really matter what I call it as long as I know it's payment types. This is obviously going to be a SQL data source. I need to use the data source that I just created for the Stream Actions webinar. I'll test that connection. It succeeded. I'm a happy camper, which means I should only have two of these tables, one of which is training payment types. So I am just going to select star from training payment types, and I'm going to order by payment type. And I always put in ascending, even though this is implied, it is the default sort method. I always explicitly put in the sort method I want. So I'm going to select everything from training payment types, but I do want to order them by the payment type, and I want them ordered alphabetically in ascending order. So if I hit test query, it should return my 5 records. It does, so I can see all of the different types that I have. To make life simple for me, I'm just going to click that's not the button I'm going to click. Sorry, I'm going to click the Add Columns as Properties button. I'm going to make life even more simple for me. Add columns as properties. There we go. I've got payment type ID and payment type. Pretty happy with this. I don't need any parameters because I'm just returning this to fill a dropdown. So number 1, I'm good. So we're going to go ahead and hit OK there. And now I can build the form that I need to use that particular dropdown. I am going to need to pull my unpaid invoices. I need to pull all of the data out of the database for any invoices that are unpaid. That reminds me, before we go any further, I need to reset all of my data. So let's go back and start. Let me eliminate everything that we've done. So I'm going to delete all of these form instances so that we can start from status quo ante. Well, I guess I don't. Yeah, I do need to delete it because it's the same data. So I need to also delete all of my completed timelines. So we'll delete all of those. And I need to reset my data. So I need to go back over here to invoices.xlsx, and I need to go to the import database, and I need to re-import these tables uh, or re-import this data from the Excel spreadsheet, it will drop my existing data. So I should be able to go back to my view stream data form, and I should see 5 unpaid, unprocessed invoices. And I do. So we're really happy with that. Okay. Sorry for that little digression, but that needed to be done so I could clear out all of my data. So now I actually have some unprocessed invoices. I need to go ahead and create the business value that will pull those unprocessed invoices. This is the business value that I'm going to use as the data source for my stream action. So I need to be sure that I pull only the correct items to make this data source for my stream actions work properly. So I am going to create another business value, and I'm going to call it unprocessed invoices. And the other one I called unpaid invoices for some reason. I'm not sure why, but this is my webinar one. So I'm just going to hit OK here. And I need to do something that's going to make my life a little simpler. And I need to do it for both of these. It's something I forgot to do, which is the group in value picker. So we're just going to call this stream 24. That's going to be where all of my business values appear in the choose system variable dialog box. And while I've got it and I've got it pasted, I need to go to payment types webinar, and I need to paste it in here and save it as well so that I can find all of these business values in the same menu in the choose system variable dialog box. Once again, this is going to be a SQL business value. And so I'm going to pick my stream actions webinar. I'm going to test query. I'm not going to test query. I'm going to test connection. It succeeded. I pretty much thought that it would. And now I'm going to look at unpaid invoices. Now, I have an amount, but I don't have a date paid. I do have an in process, which is how I'm going to determine what gets pulled. I have an invoice ID. I have a payee. I don't have a payment type. So I've really only got 3 data fields for which I currently have data. I have the amount of the invoice, or the payee, the person who's going to be paying the invoice, and the amount of the invoice. Other than that, I don't have much. So I only need those 3 fields. If I hit select all, it would give me everything, but I don't really need everything. But let's start from there. We'll take a look at what data we get back, and that will tell us what data we can pick. So we'll just start off with select star, and we'll come back a bit later and we will fix that up. So we're just going to start off with select star from training unpaid invoices, and we're going to test it and see what we get. Okay, so I've got my invoice ID. That's good. I've got a payee and I've got an amount. Those are really the only 3 pieces of data that I have. Everything else is empty. Technically, in process is empty too, but I'm going to need that because I only want to pull invoices where in process equals 0. So I do need to make a couple of changes. First, I know that I need the invoice ID. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do a little copying and pasting to replace this star with invoice ID. And then I'm going to need the amount. So we'll stick the amount in there and a comma. And then I'm going to need the payee. And we'll put that in there. So I'm going to select the invoice ID, amount, and payee from unpaid invoices, where, and this is kind of important, where in process and I think that's a number. So I think in process equals 0 will work. It does work. So it pulled out everything where in process equals 0. If it was not in process, now that in process is a flag. So it's either going to be a 0 or 1, right? So I have nothing that equals 1. So that would return no data. And if I put equals 0, it will return all 5 of my records. Now, this is going to be really important because I'm going to need to play around with this a little bit later whenever I run my process. So just keep that bit in mind. That is the key that determines what invoices I need. If I have 1,000 invoices in there, but I've only got 3 unpaid, I only want to return those 3 unpaid. So this is important. I am going to go ahead and add my columns as property. So I have my invoice ID, my amount, my payee. I don't have a parameter that I can pass here. So this is done as well. So we'll go ahead and hit OK. These are really the only 2 business values I believe I need. These other ones were just sort of things that I did, like the all invoices runs that other form. We're not going to build that form, so we don't need to worry about that. So this gets me where I need to be in terms of my data. And so having done that, I can, well, let's get out of here. Let's go up a level. And now I can start building my process itself. What I probably should have done is built this from my template. I didn't do that. So we're going to go through a little bit of tedium here. We are going to build a form definition. And we're just going to call it Stream Webinar Form. And while we're building stuff, I'm not going to, oh, well, we're here. Let's go ahead and build it. I've got some data that I need to put this data into the form from my stream action. I know what I need. I've got to have the invoice ID, the payee, and the amount of the invoice. Those need to be data fields. And I need to have my drop down for the payment type. And then I'm going to need a payment date field. So I only need those fields. I'm not going to make this pretty just in the interest of time. I'm going to call this my process invoices form. We'll stick that in heading 1. And didn't mean to type that. And we'll just throw in some fields real quick, and we'll just drop them in right on the page. So I do need my invoice ID. Again, normally in a real application, I would not just type in text. I would use a label control for accessibility purposes. In the interests of time, since it's already 10:30, I'm just going to type stuff into text. So I am going to break some best practices here, but be aware that the best practice anytime you put in a control label is to use a label control. But like I said, in the interest of time, we're just going to elide past that. And we're going to call this invoice ID as the name of that field. And then our next line is going to be the payee or payer. It never occurred to me, am I paying these invoices or are they paying me? I never sat down and figured that out. I just know that there's invoices that have to be processed. I don't know who's paying for what. Somebody's paying something, however, and we know who is either paying, or if it's payee, who is getting paid. So I need a payee field. Then we'll go to the next line. And now I'm going to need my drop-down control. And this drop-down control is going to be for the payment type. And so I'm going to call it payment type. And obviously I want this drop-down to be filled from that business value. So we are going to have to go back and configure that on the fill drop-downs tab of the form definition whenever we save our data here. I need my payment type and I need a payment date. I think these are the only 4 fields that I need, but I am going to check the other form just to be sure that I haven't missed anything. And my payment date is obviously going to be a date field. And I'm going to cheat a little bit here. So after I name it payment date and I get rid of that comma, I'm going to go into the field properties and I'm going to I'm just going to go ahead and set the default value so that the payment date will always be today. And this is just to make doing the filling out the form a lot easier. And I should be able to go to date, current date. And so actually, I'm not sure that that is going to work. Let's forget that. I am going to have to set a set form data to set that payment date properly whenever I select a payment type. So I do need to make the payment type an event field so that whenever I select it, it just automatically fills in the payment date. So I have these 4 fields. I am going to save here. Actually, what I'm going to do is just do a side-by-side comparison. Hey, so we'll go over here to training and let me open up, pin my content list here. And I want to look at my old form just to be sure that I didn't forget any. And by the way, this is going to be super convenient because this will enable me to copy and paste a bunch of SQL statements in a few minutes. So I do need to have it open in the second tab anyway. So let's look at my process invoices form and let's look at our fields. Oh, wow. Let's look at the form design itself. So invoice ID, payee, amount, payment type, and payment date. The amount, payment type, and payment date. So what did I forget? Invoice type, payee. Oh, that's what I forgot. Amount. So we need an amount field to get our 5 fields. That should give me what I need. And those should be the only 5 fields on the form because I'm not using, as I did on this other form, all the pretty sections and routing slips and all of the other stuff. I didn't pretty this one up, just trying to get through it. But there are a couple of other things that we need to get through. Let's check to be sure we've got all of our proper stuff set here. It looks like we're good there. We do need to go to our set form data. I have my drop down for payment type. When I set that, I want to go ahead and set my payment date just to whatever today is, because presumably we're going to be marking that payment for today because I'm processing the invoice today. So we're going to set this to current date. So we're happy with that. Let's go ahead and update real quick. Then we're going to go to our fill dropdowns tab. And we're going to add our dropdown. We only have one, which is our payment type. And our payment type is going to come from that business value that we created. So business values, and I called this stream 24. There we go. And payment types. So let's drop in my select one. And then our display text is obviously going to be the payment type. Our property value is going to be the payment type ID. And we are going to set that and update it. And so my form should work. It's a pretty simple form. I'm not going to test it quite yet. Well, let's do it. We're already here. Why not? Let's update and run it. It shows up a little high there. So I've got an invoice ID. The only thing I really care about testing is this, to be sure that when I change a payment type, it changes the payment date. Everything else, these other 3 fields are going to be provided automatically from the business value whenever I copy this data over. So we'll just leave that as it is. My form looks like it works. I'm good with that. I will need a process timeline. So let's create a new process timeline. And we will call it unprocessed invoices TL. And before I do anything here, I want to link my form and my process timeline. So we're going to go into form for timeline, and we're going to attach our stream webinar form to it. And we're just going to hit OK here. And I didn't hit OK, but I did that time. And now we'll go back to our webinar form. We'll go back to its properties tab, and we will link the process timeline. And we'll set this to unprocessed invoices TL. I always do timelines associated with. That's not going to be necessary in this case because we're not really going to be doing any conditions based on the process timeline. But I now have a form and a process timeline that are all working together. My timeline is going to be a little bit as simple as it is. It's still going to be a little tricky because we're going to need to do some SQL manipulation in this process timeline. But we don't need to do any of it quite yet. We're just going to go ahead and hit create activity, and we're going to see if we can get our stream action running here with just this form and process timeline. So now, finally, we get to the stream action that we want to run. So go to create new, and we'll create our stream action, and we will call this the actually, I don't even want to call it that. I'll just call this my invoice stream. And we'll hit OK. So let's go through all the properties that we're going to need to configure, and let's configure them one at a time. Stream action is currently, the default is not active, and you want the default to be not active because once you set up a schedule, that schedule is going to start running if it's active. So in development, we're always going to keep it not active. We're not going to set this to active until we are ready to go live. Now, in fact, today, we're not really going to set it active at all because we're going to look at how we would schedule something, but we don't have the time to sit around waiting for a day to watch our automated run tomorrow. So we're going to have to kick this off manually. So we're going to keep it at not active. However, in the real world, once you have implemented a schedule, you are going to want to come back to your properties tab and set this to active. We have our group and value picker, which again, I apparently copied something. We're going to call this stream 24 too, so that it shows up in the same menu item in our value picker. And I'm going to go ahead and update at this point. I always update after I do the properties tab on goals, knowledge views. There are certain settings that always appear on the properties tab that will affect how the rest of the tabs look and what information you are displayed potentially. So I always like to do the do the update from the options tab before I move to the next tab, which in the case of a stream action is the data set tab. Now, I need to set a data source for my stream action. Now, I have two choices. I can, in fact, set a SQL data source. I can set a SQL data source, and I can run a SQL command directly from the stream action. So technically, the business value that I created earlier, I didn't need to create. I simply could have built it right here and added the SQL right here, and it would have pulled the same SQL data that my business value pulls. Now, obviously, I'm going to need a data source, right? I'm going to need to be able to access the appropriate data source for the stream action. And if I was to pick stream actions webinar, it would give me the same data sources. So I don't need a business value to run a stream action. As far as SQL data goes, the stream action itself is the business value. The stream action is a business value-y object. There are some drawbacks to doing it this way. The most noticeable of which is that if I encapsulate my SQL here, I can't really pull it anywhere else, right? I can't create like I did in that other form. I can't create a form that has an array in it that just shows me the data. Or I can't create a report off of this same data. Once I build it here, it's locked in here. In that way, it's very similar to, well, the SQL command custom tasks that we're going to have to create here in a little bit whenever we start configuring our process timeline to make this thing work the way that we want to, the way that we'd want it to work in a production environment. So while I can build my SQL here, I kind of like to use a data source. I'm sorry, a business value. And the reason is that business value is reusable. So if I need it to make a report or I need it to fill out an array on a form somewhere else for reporting purposes or what have you, I don't have to recreate the same thing over once I have a business value. Once you create a business value, it's universally available. I'm not going to say that that is a formal recommendation from BP Logix to use a business value. However, as a practical matter, it's certainly something that you might want to consider, if only because business values are reusable. And that's really the only consideration you have to think about and determine which is important to you. Is it going to be important that I be able to reuse this? As a general principle, is it important that if I'm pulling data from an external database that I want to be able to reuse that data? Or do I simply not care and do I want to pull this as direct SQL? You can do it either way. In our case, we are going to go ahead and use a business value. So for that business value, we are just going to use the unprocessed invoices webinar. So those are our values. And we're going to go ahead and update again. And we're going to update again because we do need to map fields to start our process. Now, there is an important distinction that needs to be made in how a stream actions object works, as opposed to how a knowledge view that does a run process works. When we look at a knowledge view, I mean, it tells us what it's going to do. So let me go to data. Let me pull up a knowledge view here, this little test knowledge view. Go back to the configure tab. And it says run a process. This will actually run a process. What this will do, and by the way, same thing happens in a goal. Goal has the same action. You have the ability to run a knowledge view in a goal or run a process. And it means exactly that, run a process. By which I mean to say that whenever this knowledge view, for example, runs, what it's going to do is you're going to have to define a process. So I've set it here, right? And let's go update. And I'll have to come back and, well, this is a test, so I can do anything I want to this. So because I've selected run a process, I get a new entry back over here on my properties tab, the selected process to run on each object. So when I click there, and we'll just go to webinar, and we'll just go to unprocessed invoices, it'll just run that. Notice that that's a timeline I picked. Let's go back and be very clear about this. What I see, if I go anywhere, are just process timelines. If somebody was still using a workflow, I suppose they'd see that too, but you shouldn't have been using workflows for the past 10 years. So you will see process timelines. Those are your processes. The knowledge view, the goal, actually kick off the process itself. They do not kick off the form. Stream actions work differently. In a stream action, this says start process, but that's kind of misleading because what's actually happening is in a stream action, what a stream action does is it creates a new form instance and it submits that form instance. It's the submission of the form instance that launches the process. This is a departure from how all of the other run process things work. They all start the process itself. Now, that can be a little tricky in terms of implementation whenever you're starting processes in an automated fashion in that way. Because usually in Process Director, a process gets started by the manual submission of a form. An end user opens a form, they fill it out, they click the submit button. That submission starts the process. When you start a process from an Ology or from a goal, you're actually not submitting a form. You're actually starting the very first activity in whatever process timeline you've been created. Now, that puts a little extra burden on you. What it does mean is that the very first thing you need to do in that process is set some form data, because there is no form data, because the process has started. There's been no submission whenever we automate running a process for an Ology or a goal. The stream action is exactly the opposite of that. We know we're going to need some data. We know we're going to need it from an external data source. We know we're going to map it to a data field on a form. So in this particular instance, we are just going to go through it just like a user would go through it. We are going to invoke a form instance. We're going to fill out some data on that form instance, and then we're going to submit it. And once that form is submitted, then the process will start. So unlike the other methods of automatically running a process in Process Director, in the stream action, we actually invoke a form instance and submit it. And so this is different than any of the other process invocations that we make in the product. We did that to make the data mapping easier and more straightforward, so that I could just take my external data, map it to some form data, and submit it. We'd be off to the races. So in most cases, when you hit a run process custom task, if you want to fill out or you run a knowledge view or a goal, and you want to fill out some data on that form, the very first thing you have to do in your process is ensure that you have a set form data running to set the data that you want. And it might be a little more difficult to grab that data in some instances. So we've just decided to simplify the process. So for pulling external data and mapping it, this is the easiest way of doing it, which is why I don't have a process to click. I have a form definition to find. So when I click here and I go into training and stream actions and webinar, it is not going to show me the timeline. It is going to show me the stream webinar form, and I need to pick that form definition. Once I pick that form definition, I can do the add field mapping. But before we do that, we do need to at least talk about what's happening up here at the top. I have a condition that I can set for when I want to submit the form and start the process. This is just for your benefit in case there are you have this set of data that you're going to pull. And normally what you would do is you would pull that data based on some sort of criterion that is in the data itself, which is largely what we've done with this data, right? We went in and we just said, okay, look, I want to pull this data, and here is my where clause. And so with this where clause, it's only going to pull me the data I want. And that's fine as far as it goes, because I already have a way, since I'm using SQL, whether it's in the business value or whether it is in the stream action itself. I have no problem specifying what data I want to pull. And I think we would generally accept, and that's certainly the underlying principle of this application, that if I have any data that needs to be pulled at all, and I have any records, then I want to process all of those records. I think that's probably the most common use case assumption we would make in terms of how we would want this application to work. However, there may be other things that are going on that affect that. So by having the click to create condition, outside of the data stuff itself, which I can handle in MySQL, there may be certain forms or form field data. There may be other processes running. There may be a whole bunch of other stuff happening inside Process Director that I can use as an evaluable condition to determine whether I actually want this stream to run. It may have data. The data may all be valid, and yet I may not want to run it until some other evaluable condition in Process Director has occurred. So this gives me a second layer of decision making about whether or not I want to run the stream action. The first layer is, do I actually have data that would run a stream action? If I don't, I obviously don't do anything. But if I do have the data, do I still want it to run? Is there something in Process Director that I may need to evaluate before I determine whether I want to run it or not? So I have this extra condition here just to give you, we have this extra condition here to give you the flexibility of making that determination. Because I have a form and I have form fields, I need to add form mapping. There's only 3 fields that have any data in them. There's only 3 fields on the form that I need to fill. So I do need to fill the amount, I do need to fill the payee, and I do need to fill the invoice ID. So I have those 3 fields, but now I have to fill them with the appropriate information. So I'm going to click on the build button. It's going to go to the choose system variable dialog box. And I am going to go to value and variable. There's an architectural reason why we're doing this that I used to know, and I don't recall it off the top of my head. And I think it has to do with data context. You would kind of think that where we wanted to go would be to go to business values and then find our business value. And well, the screen is too small. Let's do this. And we'd go, oh, okay, well, we need to go to our unprocessed invoices and set the value from the business value. But that's not what you want to do. Because in the background, some weird deal is happening where I'm only extracting a single row's worth of data. I'm not really trying to, what's happening basically is the business value is already being processed by the system behind the scenes. So I don't need to worry about the business value. What the business value or what the stream action has done, it has taken whatever the current row of the business value is, and it has created variables to store those 3 values from the business value that I'm going to need from each row. So I actually do need to go and pull the variable here. And when I do, the stream has already created pre-made variables for me that identify the field. And I've talked so much that I don't know what field I'm configuring. So I will pick it eventually from one of these 3 fields, but I don't remember which field. It must be the amount. So on my choose system variable here, I am going to pick the amount as the variable that is going to be used to fill the amount form field. And then I'm going to have to do the same thing for each of these. And once again, I've forgotten what field. I'm doing payee now. So we'll pick payee. And then the next field is going to be invoice ID. And so we will once again go pick value and variable, and we will pick invoice ID. So remember the variable thing, because it's super important. Because whenever I first saw the setup for this thing, I immediately went and tried to pull the business value, and it didn't work. And it didn't work because the business value is obviously not the object you want to grab. You want to grab the variable object, but it is non-obvious. And the reason why it's non-obvious is that whenever we pick a variable, what we're used to seeing whenever we choose a variable is just a text box here that will allow us to put in like a system variable, or a query string, or to type in, var colon, whatever the variable name is. We're used to dealing with that as a manual variable creation setup. That's not what happens in the stream action. These variables are being created for you automatically so that we can supply the values for each row. So that's why we're choosing variable. I'm not sure if I was developing this, if I would have chosen variable as the area to put it. Maybe I would have, but I would have chosen value, but I might have created another item here called, stream item or stream field. But variable already existed. It was clearly the easiest thing to do. So we have picked a variable for us to do this. The variables get created behind the scenes as system variables that you can just pick from a drop down. So it does make your life a little bit easier. This distinct data set column is also one that generally I'm only going to pull one row per. There are some times when I might get multiple rows in a data source where I just want to ensure that I have a distinct column where only that column is the one that counts. So we have this select distinct, or this distinct data set column setting. That's not going to be relevant to almost anything that you do here, but there are some edge use cases where you have to select a distinct column because you might get multiple matching records, especially if you are back over here using the data set and you set this to a SQL data source. You might actually be pulling repeated records, and you don't want to pull repeated records. You want to have distinct records. So, if I have the same record repeated twice, that's not going to be great because I'm going to be actually processing, in this case, the same invoice twice. I don't want to do that. So I need to select a column that will ensure that that I don't get any repeated records. Let's think of it that way. I don't want to repeat records. What column, if I select on that column, will ensure that I don't get repeated records? So that's what that distinct data set column does. Finally, there's the schedule. And for the schedule, there is, in this case, no automatic stream processing. You can set it to run a stream action on a schedule. This is the same scheduler that appears everywhere else in Process Director. You pick a interval in which you would like this to be scheduled. You pick a start date, any days of lead time if you want. If you want to have it end, you can pick a time when you want this stream to end. Most of the time, of course, you leave this blank because you want it to run indefinitely. And then you have a limit to business hours only. So if you have something running every hour, there's no reason to have it running every hour during non-business hours when nobody is working. So you might limit that to business hours only to prevent that from happening. Okay, great. I have a stream action. It looks like I have data. It looks like I have 5 data items that should run. So let's run it and see what happens. So we are going to go to start. Nope, we're going to go to schedule. We are going to turn this back to no automatic stream action processing. One more time, I'm just going to update to be sure I have everything. And I'm going to hit process now, and we'll see what happens. What I'm hoping happens is that I get 5 records. Certainly something is happening. And it did successfully execute on 5 objects. So if I go back over here to my user profile, I do indeed have 5 stream actions running. I have 5 processes running to process these stream actions. I do have one little problem, however, with my stream action. And so this is where we now get into implementation stuff rather than purely stream actions stuff. If we go back to my stream action, so we're going to leave this where it is right now. We're going to go back to this other tab, and I'm going to hit process now again. And what's going to happen is I'm going to get successful execution on 5 objects, which I don't actually want. Because if I go back over here now and I refresh this, oh no, I now have 2 copies running for each object. That's not good. So I've got to fix that. And this is where stream actions now have a direct implication on how your actual application needs to work. So cutting all of those, well, I still have tasks, even though I've canceled the processes. So we're going to make our life a little bit easier for ourselves. And I'm going to get rid of all of that. I'm going to go here. And we are going to delete all 10 of those timelines that are still running. And then we'll delete the form instances as well. Oh, I've already gotten rid of the form instances. Okay, fine. So great. Now we're back to status quo ante. So I need to fix how this stream action is going to work. Because the way it works now is it's going to pull those same records all of the time. And the reason it's going to pull those same records all the time is because, well, that's what I asked it to. In my business value itself, I just said, look, pull everything where in process equals 0. But once I pull it, I mean, technically in process should no longer equal 0. I'm now in process. I have a database flag that I need to fix, or else it's always going to repeat. Even after I process it, I have to figure out how to fix that there so that it works, which means that I'm going to have to do some database manipulation, which I think is largely going to be true in most applications where you use a stream action. If I'm using some sort of, now look, it could be you have some system where you just have some temporary records. You pull those temporary records, your system goes back in and deletes them on a periodic basis. You never see them again. Maybe that's fine. But I think we have to start off from, if I have n number of records that match a criteria, and I am going to make whatever change I need to make, then I'm going to have to go back in and alter those records so that they no longer match the criteria. I don't want to repeat pulling the same records over and over. So I've got to fix this. And the only way to really fix it is in my process timeline. So when we did the process timeline, we kind of cowboyed our way through this. I created a user activity called activity 1, and that's all that we did. We're going to need to do a little bit more than that. We're going to need to round trip some data back and forth from the database. So I'm actually going to need 2 different SQL commands to run as part of this process to fix the problem of repeating this data over and over. So I'm going to have 3 activities here, and I'm actually now going to go in and name them and change them around. First thing I'm going to do is create their dependencies. So I'm going to drag activity 2 to activity 1, activity 3 to activity 2, create my dependency chain. And I'm going to call activity 2 process invoices, or process invoice, because we're only dealing with 1 invoice at a time. So that's a user activity. Great. Happy to have it. We'll do this user activity. Activities 1 and activities 3 are going to need to be SQL commands. So I'm going to need to convert these to custom task activities. So for activity 1, I'm going to change this to set in process. And I'm going to change this to a custom task activity. And on the custom task, I'm going to use a SQL command custom task. So database connectors is somewhere in here. SQL command is right there. We're going to hit add custom task. We're going to set our container form to our stream webinar form. Although we are going to need to do that because I'm going to need some data off that form to determine what record gets edited when this process starts. So now we are going to configure our SQL command. And in fact, before we do that, just to make our lives a little bit easier, well, actually, my life a little bit easier because I have configured this in the wrong window. I mean, sure, it's looking at the same window, so it doesn't matter. But this is the window where I'm working. So let's go back to this window. Let's go back here. We'll go back to our activity. This is the window where I want to copy stuff from. So let's go into our completed sample application. Let's go into our processing timeline. We'll go to this in process, and I want to copy and paste so I don't have to type this myself. I'm going to paste that SQL statement in there. We'll get back to it in a second. Obviously, I'm going to need to use that same SQL data source. So that SQL data source is called Stream Actions Webinar. Stream Actions Webinar. Where are you? Oh, there you are. Wow. Why couldn't I see that earlier? Let's connect to that data source. It succeeded. I'm going to put in a description of command, which we'll just call it update unprocessed invoices to in process. And then I've got a SQL command that I have got to pass to it. So that's going to be hard to read. So let me open up Visual Studio Code here so that we can actually see the SQL command in a more readable format. Visual Studio Code is not opening. Did I not properly click on Visual Studio Code? There we go. Finally, it did open. So let's kill all this other stuff that I was working on yesterday. Let's go to a new text file right there. Well, let me resize this so that it's all here on the screen. So here is my, and I'll even make it bigger. Trying to make this as readable as possible. Okay, so here is my problem. What I've got is a set of data where I am pulling everything where in process is set to 0. And so I need to change this because once I've pulled it, it is now in process. I need to change its status. However, I only want to change its status for something I am actually working on at the time. So I need to go to this unpaid invoices table, and I need to set the in process value, which is currently at 0. I need to set that to 1. But I only want to do it for whatever this current invoice is. I don't want to go and do a blanket change all of the unprocessed invoices to in process because that might not be true. I only want to change it for whatever process I am currently running right now. So one of the reasons why I pulled the invoice ID off in the stream action and made it a form field is because the very first thing I'm going to want to do in my process timeline is I'm going to want to reset the in process status to 1 rather than 0. So if for whatever reason that stream action runs again, this record will no longer match the criteria for record selection that I've placed in the stream action. So whichever record matches the invoice ID that's on the form, that's the one that is going to be reset back to 1. I say reset back to 1. It's actually just going to be set to 1 so that this item will be fixed. Anytime you are going to do an update, insert, or delete command, you do need to, as a best practice, you do need to run it from a SQL command custom task. You can run it in a form. You can run it, as in this case, in a process timeline, but the SQL command custom task is the only area where you should implement insert, update, or delete commands. You can use business values and do select commands all you want. That's fine. But if you're going to use any sort of command that manipulates the data itself in the data source, you need to use a SQL command custom task. The fact is that Process Director does not vet your SQL. Whatever SQL you put into a SQL box, whether it's a business value or whether it is a stream action like we're working with here, or whether, it doesn't matter. Wherever it is that you can pass SQL, Process Director will not vet your SQL for you. It will not say, are you sure you want to do this right here? Process Director is going to do what you tell it to do when it comes to passing SQL commands. Process Director will also not edit your SQL command. It will send whatever SQL command you place in there directly to the database, and it will run that SQL as is. That means that technically you could create a business value and you could use an insert or an update or a delete command in that business value. And Process Director will run it. The reason why that is an extraordinarily bad idea is because once you create a business value, for example, you have now given every single user in your system the ability to delete data from your external data source, whatever it is. If you want to do that, I suppose you can. Like I said, it's an extraordinarily bad idea because business values are universally available. So you want to be very careful with anything that updates data. You can select data and run select statements all you want, anywhere you want. But SQL command is the best place to put data manipulation stuff. And I know it can be tedious, right? Because I might have the same command that I might want to run in 5 different places, which means that I'm going to have to construct and configure 5 different SQL command custom tasks in 5 different places. I understand that's tedious, but a little tedium is probably a good thing when it comes to protecting the integrity of your external data. So that's why we're doing it here. We do have the ability to execute a SQL command here, as always, with an update or insert or delete command. That's always a pretty iffy thing, although it really won't work here because I have a parameter, right, that's looking for a form field system variable. Also, note the SQL encoding character, the $sign. That's important as well. But I have a variable here that is not going to have any value in the context of this custom task. I'm not even in the form, so there's no way it knows what invoice ID is. So if I hit execute SQL command here, which I can, yeah, nothing's going to happen because I have an invalid invoice ID, so it can't run my command. If I didn't have this where clause, it would actually update everything in the table. So you got to be careful about that execute SQL command. we're fine here. I think the SQL command is going to work fine for us. And I think it's going to work fine for us because I copied it from one that I know works. So we'll hit close there and great. The first thing that's going to happen is we're going to set our value to in process. There is one more thing that I'm going to have to do. And again, I'm going to run a SQL command. And once again, I am going to want to just copy this SQL statement so that I don't have to type it myself, just in the interest of time. Activity 3 is also going to be a SQL command. And we're just going to call this update invoice info. And again, we are going to set this to a custom task. Our custom task is once again going to be the SQL command custom task. We will obviously set our stream webinar form because we are going to want to pull form field system variable data. And we'll go in to configure this. Once again, it is our stream actions webinar right there. We'll do our connection. Connection succeeded. We'll transfer payment info to DB because we're transferring the payment info that we're going to put in our form. We're going to transfer that to the database. And we have our SQL statement that we are going to pass, which in this case is an update. So we're going to update these items here. And not sure what I did there. I think I wanted to do that. So here is the SQL command that we want to pass off. So we're going to update the table, and we're going to set these two fields. We're going to set the payment type to payment type and the date paid to the payment date. I believe these field names will be the same. So this should all work the way that I've created it. So it should be payment date, payment type, and invoice ID. We're going to check just to be sure that I have these field names correct, but I think I named them correctly. I may not have, but if not, then we'll fix that. But that's the SQL statement that I want to run to just take the payment data that I place into the form, which is basically the payment type and the payment date. And I want to stick that payment type and payment date back into the database. And that should take care of me doing that. So I'm really only doing one activity to process this invoice. Most of this process timeline is basically a data manipulation setup to ensure that my data works correctly. So let's look at my form and to be sure that it is payment date, payment type, invoice ID. So payment date, payment type, invoice ID. Looks like I named everything correctly. So all of this should work right out of the box. So that means we can run her again. So we'll go back to our invoice stream. And we'll hit process now. So I should get my 5 unprocessed invoices. And it's going to take a minute, apparently. It's successfully executed. We're going to run it again. And that's what we want to see. Successfully executed action run process on 0 objects. And the reason why is because the very first activity in our process timeline reset that data. So we can now go back into our unpaid invoices to view our stream data here. And we can see the in process has been set to 1. We haven't set payment types or payment dates yet. We're going to do that in the form when we process these. Let's go ahead and keep this open. We'll just move it off of the screen for a second. And, well, actually, so I'm just talking to myself here. I want to look at my user profile on this side. All right, there are my 5 processes. There are my 5 streams. So I should be able to open up this form. There's my data. I probably should have set this field here, the amount field to currency. I didn't do that. My bad. And we'll say check for this one, and we'll hit complete. Looks good so far. I now have one less process here. This still says 5 processes are running. Let's do a refresh. No, still going on. Not sure why, but let's refresh our form. Okay, I have no payment type or payment date passed to my database, it doesn't look like. So something went a little bit awry. So this is where we actually go in and begin doing a little troubleshooting on what might be happening. Actually, I wanted to do my troubleshooting over here. It gets all confusing even when you just have 2 tabs open. So update invoice, stream webinar form, execute SQL command, stream actions, update, set payment type equals payment type, date paid equals payment date. Okay, so the SQL command is not going to work here. So I'm going to do something that you would never do on a regular SQL statement. So we're going to set the payment type as 1, whatever that is. And we're going to set the payment date, date paid equals, you know what? I'm just going to set this to get date. I think that'll work. Pulling that from SQL, and invoice ID equals 1. So I need to test because I think my SQL command is going. Okay, query succeeded. Executed on 1 record. So my changes were correct. So I'm not sure why that didn't happen. So let's not save anything. Let's just back out of this. So I should not have saved any of that configuration. I'm going to check just to be sure that I have my original SQL statement here. I have no SQL statement at all. I'm in, that's the right timeline, right? Okay, let's close that tab for a moment. Let's figure out where I am. I'm not sure what changed. Stream actions webinar, unprocessed invoices timeline, set in process, configure. That's fine. Close. Update invoice info, configure. That's not fine. Okay. See, here's a danger sometimes to being in 2 separate browser tabs on the same server because you lose track of what you've done. So apparently I did not save this. I don't even know what I called it last time, but now it's update invoice info from form. Now we'll hit OK. Now we'll hit close. Now we'll hit update. That should have saved everything, right? Oh, well, let's see. Let's run her again. Training. There's the training server. Should log me back in. Let's go back into our user profile. And there we go. Let's open this one up. Let's try her again. So we're going to set this payment to check. We're going to hit complete. It looks done. Did it update our data? Refresh. Ah, there we go. Our data has now been updated. It looks like it got the original one too. So not sure what happened there, but everything looks fine so far. Oh, it may be that it's taking some time, because notice I still have some running processes. Looks like it's taking some time to run that database call. So you know what? Maybe it was configured fine after all. Not entirely sure. But it took a while. Those two worked out. I'm just going to go ahead and process the rest of these. Complete. Process this one. Complete. And finally process this one. Okay. And so apparently, okay, got 4 of them now. So we still have one that is as yet unprocessed. So there's obviously something going on in terms of database and timeouts on my system. Well, not totally surprising. I have a pretty tiny system here. Not the most powerful process director system on the block, let's just say. But it's taken a little while for this to work. So we know it's working. We just know that there's some hold up here. I suppose if I really wanted to check to see what was going on, I could go into troubleshooting, take a look at my script log, and see what's happening there. Something is going on, but I don't know why I'm getting all these invalid path name. Oh, well, that's way a long time ago anyway. Invalid resource string. Okay, yeah, I know that that's invalid. I have a fake data source. Okay, well, that's not working. Let's go to the internal logs. Let's go to the very bottom of the internal logs. Okay, well, 4 of them went through. I'm not sure where the 5th one is, but it doesn't look like there's any extended SQL timeouts or anything that might be causing that. I'm kind of curious here. Let's go into our unprocessed invoices. So now we're just doing a little troubleshooting. So unprocessed invoices. Let's go to our active timelines. It is still running. Let's go to administration and timeline. Activity is in an error state. Could not execute query. Please contact your administrator to correct the database connection. That is weird. Okay, now it's running. It passed. Okay. I've got some database connectivity issues here, apparently. But there we go. It was in error. It ran, and the other ones ran really slowly. I've never noticed that before, but we got everything done. We're fine. And of course, obviously, if we run our stream again, nothing will happen. We can process it. It'll run the process on 0 objects. So there you go. That is the stream action object. It's not super difficult to set up, and you can run a quick stream action and get some data set in a form, have that form submitted, kick off your processes. It's fairly straightforward. That's all I have for you today. So this is a relatively short one at an hour and a half, considering the very long ones pushing it right up to 2 hours that we've had over the last month. So I'll return the balance of your time to you. I hope you have a great week, and we'll talk to you again next week. Until then, so long.